Welcome back to another episode of Cseking In. I am Nikki Check, your host, and I'm super excited to have Brian Stephenson here with us today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Brian is going to be kind enough to share his journey up to today. So thank you again for coming in and seeing us. So today, right now, you are Brian of Lake Point Capital.
Yes.
And Foundry Mortgage Capital.
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. Why don't I hand the mic over to you and you give us a little bit of an intro into...
Sure. Sounds good. Well, I guess where to start, I'll start maybe by addressing why there's two names associated with what we're doing. So Foundry Mortgage Capital Corporation is out of Ontario. It's a mortgage brokerage that specializes largely in construction financing, multifamily, schools, seniors housing. And the reason that we're associated with them is myself and my business partner, when we started Lake Point Capital, which was about a year, well, it was just over a year ago now, you have to join a brokerage for the first 2 years of doing what we're doing now, which is corporate debt advising and commercial loan brokering. So we decided to join with Foundry Mortgage Capital because one, they're out of Ontario and have a large, over $1 billion worth of financing that they've done in recent years, particularly in the real estate development space. And that's a great network of experience of lenders to be able to plug into, but they don't have much of a presence out in BC. So we saw that as an opportunity to grow in a space where we weren't worried about stepping on people's toes that were already part of an existing brokerage. The reason that Lake Point Capital exists is because myself and my business partner bring a particular expertise to the table that is a bit outside of what Foundry does in their typical financing. So Foundry does real estate-based financings only, whereas Lake Point Capital is able to do business-related financing. So cash flow-based lending securitized against non-real estate assets. And because Foundry Mortgage Capital has mortgage in the name, it's a little bit confusing for the market. So at the end of the day, we spoke with the principal broker and we were able to kind of fly the flag under Lake Point Capital just to make sure that we're able to capture both sides of the market, mortgage-based and non-mortgage-based. So a little bit convoluted, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And it's been going great over the last year.
So there are some dots to connect and some things to go with. You don't come from, technically, capital and money and restructuring and financing. Your pool that you were swimming in was law. So law to money. Do you want to...
Yeah, sure. I can explain that story as well. So I'm very fortunate. My business partner, his name's Cooper Harrison. He's really the reason that Lake Point Capital exists today. So Cooper's background, he's a CA CPA. He got his designation at Grant Thornton locally here. And then he worked for a number of years with Scotiabank's commercial team, did a great job leading their mid-market team. And then after, I think it was about 5 years with them, moved over to a public company in town called Decisive Dividend, which is very successful. And Cooper was part of Decisive for a number of years, particularly, just so you know, Decisive is a company that's largely focused on the acquisition of manufacturing companies, publicly traded. And Cooper was there early days and was a part of 6 of their initial acquisitions. Yeah. Yep. And his final role just before he left Lake Point there was AVP of Finance. So he was doing due diligence, financial modeling, analysis, and he identified an opportunity because one of his roles that he was doing with Decisive was to look at the financing structures that they were utilizing in their acquisitions and what the companies were using, and was effectively a part of saving the company hundreds of thousands of dollars over different terms. And recognize an opportunity, you know what, there may be a chance for me to use this skill set in the market to help other businesses get these similar sorts of outcomes. Maybe not at that same scale, but as a company as large as Decisive, but still be able to help out. So he and I actually were having coffee one day. And so as a lawyer, I was a lawyer and partner at Pusher Mitchell for a few years prior to my departure. And a lot of the work that I did was business related, real estate related, also secured transactions, which means I represented a lot of the chartered banks in town, a lot of the credit unions, lending out their money to clients. So when it comes to Cooper and I's background and professional skill sets, we've kind of sat on all sides of the transactional table, whether as like Cooper as a lender at Bank of Nova Scotia, myself representing lenders, Cooper on the borrowing side with Decisive as well, me representing borrowers legally, and then also acquisitions and sales, same sort of thing. So we thought we had a pretty robust skill set to be able to go to the market in a new role and kind of pivot what we were both doing and kind of join forces. And so that's what we did. And it's been a lot of fun, and every day has been different. And yeah, so.
So, I mean, congratulations, Brian. You're 1 year in business. That's a milestone. And again, as entrepreneurs, you travel down this road of staying alive. There's sort of a threshold in year 5. If you can make it to year 5, you have a pretty good chance of making it. It's not possible for every entrepreneur to be successful. So congratulations on your milestone.
Thank you.
1, 2, you're may I ask, and you don't have to answer, how old are you?
I'm 33.
33.
Yeah.
So you go to school, you're a
UBCO for undergrad. I did a history undergrad. I come from a family of teachers. So I did history undergrad at UBCO, and then I went to law school in Vancouver. And then came right back to Kelowna and Pusher Mitchell to start working. And for my career, pardon me, I went straight through undergrad, straight through law school, and then started working. And that's, there's definitely people who do that. From my grad class experience at law school, there tended to be more of a gap. People had typically at least taken a few years off or maybe done a whole nother career and come back to law school. So going straight through was great, had some advantages and disadvantages, but one of the biggest things that happened for me when I initially graduated was I was left very much wanting to get out of the theoretical and world of academia and get into the real world and start kind of doing my own thing. And so that's what prompted me to, I think, be quite proactive in trying to build my own practice out of the gate, whereas the normal course is to be a bit more of a, take work from partners, do that work, and then, and for me, not that I didn't do that when I was asked anything, but it felt like I was just being given more homework, felt like I was still in school, so that's why I wanted to go out and try to start building my own thing. And so I guess that ultimately led to a career path that was really enjoyable, because when you have that sort of control and intention behind what you're trying to build and responsibility for the success of your clients that you've brought in, it resulted in a very enjoyable career, and then was able to become a partner, and that was fantastic. And then it's very interesting. I mean, I think I got to the point where I had a choice of doing what I was doing for the next, rest of my career, or taking an opportunity to pivot. And yeah.
And that's what I want to touch on. So you skate across it really quickly, but I just want to slow it down for a second. So lots of people go to school, all different ages, to eventually land in a law firm with the ultimate dream of becoming a partner. You did that. You did that in 7-8 years. And you just said it. It could be your next 1, 2, 3, 4 decades. Like you've arrived, your partner. And I'm interested in knowing what you think or why you think, and it's not a test, there's no right or wrong, why you think that was a springboard or just a stage for you, and I don't mean it negatively at all, an opportunity to use that to be your next step. And I actually don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you started at Pusher with the expectation that you were going to be an entrepreneur. I think it evolved and came to be, again, as you went along the way. And I just want to talk about whatever you can share on that, whether it be from, and I'm making this up, long hours at the firm, personal fulfillment or meaningfulness of having impact with clients, or whatever aligns with your sort of your North Star. Like, how are you 33 and walking away from partner at a really neat firm to take risk, to jump in? You're young, you've got a daughter on the way.
Yeah, we're 37 days out.
Oh my gosh.
But who's counting?
Your world is about to change. Again. But it takes courage and support and all kinds of things to be able to step into entrepreneur and business ownership. So why were you so brave? Why'd you do it?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think you've actually touched on a number of things, which I think are worth emphasizing. I think fundamentally, I should make a comment that law is it's a great degree and profession and education to have.
Absolutely.
It's extremely flexible in terms of its applicability. And so I think that as an underlying thing is why I was able to make any sort of pivot, and why a lot of, I think, lawyers are able to transition to different things. But at the end of the day, I mean, you touched on things like long hours and actually combining that with new family adventures that are happening. I think that wasn't a small part of why I was considering, okay, is what I'm doing right now sustainable in the long term for the amount of enjoyment that I could derive from it versus some other things as well? Because I think ultimately what I'm very fortunate to have had happen is I was able to build a career around a skill set that was also just as much as, yes, exactly.
So transferable.
Just as much as the law side was the transferable piece, so was, I think, the business development and marketing, which I enjoyed so much. And actually, if I were, I think Cooper and I, my business partner, were reflecting upon Lake Point Capital the other day. And in terms of our role and responsibilities, I'll be honest, when we started, I was envisioning us being equal partners, doing everything equally kind of thing. And that was a bit naive in the sense that you put Cooper in front of a spreadsheet and he's just one of the smartest guys I know kind of thing. And plus with the numbers associated with it, like he can do it all. Whereas I maybe struggle a little bit more at that piece of it, but I have other skills. And so what's nice is being able to utilize that. So the analogy Cooper made was, it's like we started a restaurant. He's the head chef in the back putting everything together. I'm front of house. I'm the waiter. I'll valet the car kind of thing. I'll get the customers in, but he's the guy putting everything together. And what's actually also nice, I should add, with our 1 year anniversary, we also made our first full-time hire of an employee, which we're very excited about. It is, yeah. So we have 3 kind of part-time people helping us out, and then this first full-time employee starting next week. And he used to be a senior credit analyst with a commercial bank in town, which is awesome. And he's actually a CA CPA as well. So we got 2 accountants on the team, which is great because you got to have some of that number intelligence if you're going to be doing what we're doing.
I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So you're okay. 1 year in, we're going to take a look in the rearview mirror. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you want to highlight or share in the first year of building the business that you wish you would have either done different, could have done better, sought out maybe better advice on? Is there anything, or even a takeaway? I love that you guys are 1 year in and you have 3 part-time and 1 full-time. Big challenge for entrepreneurs is hiring soon enough.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think it's also, that's an interesting question, because I think it's the first year is still, don't know how to put this, but feels pretty raw still in the sense that with what we've learned and what we've been doing as well, not that we didn't anticipate this, but the gestational period, let's say, for transactions that we're doing could be quite significant. Yeah. And so there's still a lot of things that we were starting, some things that we were starting with earlier on last year when we first got things going that we're just closing now. And so I think when it comes to stuff like hiring as an example, one of the big I think skills that you have to learn as a leader and an owner of a business is, okay, identifying the qualities of the people that you need, but then also, okay, what's the best and highest best use of their time. When you're trying to figure that out, when you are also figuring out what's the highest and best use of my time as you're implementing systems and trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. And what I will say is when you do make a hire, it's interesting how it will focus you on, okay, I want to make sure that they are as efficient as possible in what they're doing and have clear direction. And so we need to start kind of documenting what our processes are. Yeah. Because if we have to explain the same process over and over and over to this person or the next hire or whoever, then that's a huge inefficiency. And one of the many things that I really respect about Cooper is the way that he approaches things from a procedural and a systems-based thing. Yes, and process. It's massive. And so so that's one of the, I think from a takeaway perspective. Maybe not something I'd change, maybe I'd something just double down on more, is being mindful of that. But there's a certain element of trial and error when you first start a business.
So you guys are money guys and law, like you have your law bracket. So that lends itself well to the company. Are you the mechanics that don't fix their car? Are you, and again, you don't have to disclose anything you don't want to, but what I'm curious about is, did you bootstrap this business or did you borrow? How are you funding it when you've got a long runway on your projects?
I see.
As you just described.
Well, a few comments there, and maybe I'll start with this just to be clear, because I know you're using the terms casually. But in terms of being money guys, maybe I'll just also explain that element of things. So,
knowing the financial dollar.
No, and I know.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of maybe your viewers and stuff. So what we do, and I think this is a big differentiator for us as well, and this comes from the skill sets and the backgrounds and the knowledge that we're bringing to the table. But the average kind of broker in our role, a commercial loan broker, typically their role is to take information from a client. They have on the one side, and then they'll have a marketplace of lenders that they'll send information to, and then try to get interest in that deal, and then bring the best deal towards their client.
From an interest rate perspective, or from an amortization,
terms,
or
leverage, all of the above.
Okay.
Now, and that's the role of broker, that middleman type position. We are very, and I think one of the big competitive advantages that we have is we're very knowledgeable on kind of what levers you can push and pull on with lenders, and whether that's a chartered bank, credit union, private institutional. We have a very large swath of access, but it's being very intentional with making a specific ask of the lender. And the reason I say that is because when we have a client who works with us, they're going to come to us. Let's say you have a business. We work with clients across agriculture, manufacturing, multifamily construction, trucking and freight management. Like, it's kind of all over the place. And so if we have a client come to us, our first step is to identify, okay, what's your need? What would the market be able to support based upon the information that you've shared with us? Because what we're ultimately going to do is create a very robust qualitative and quantitative financing request package, that we call it, that we're going to take to a market of select lenders. And there's a few important distinctions there, because when we're putting together this package, we're being very intentional with. We're not hiding any information about the company. That's where we're very intentional with transparent, but we're very intentional with bringing forward all of the facts, mitigating the risks that do exist, because our job is to make the lender's job as easy as possible. And that may sound a bit weird, but it's what you don't want to have is sending some information to a lender and then getting either a no, but a slow no. A slow no is one of the worst things ever, because what will happen is you'll send something like, this looks great, we'll get back to you, we're gonna take a few weeks, and we need to dig into this a bit more, and can you send us that, and can you send us this, and they eat up all this time, and then, it doesn't fit in our boxes. Our job is to get either a fast yes or a fast no, because that's what's the best outcome for the client ultimately. So we package things very intentionally. We show everything that a bank would need to show. Cooper, because of his background and experience, knows what they need to see exactly. And then what we want to do is drive a competitive process. So we want to get multiple interested parties, and then we can go to work with our borrower to make sure that they get the best deal. So that's why our tagline is we get the best financing available in the market. Yes, and so the big thing that I think we found that differentiates in the market as well is not just knowing that RBC is a lender, and what they like to lend against. So it's knowing who within RBC, the person that's actually going to drive that transaction forward. Who at BMO, who at Valley First, who at Lanyard are actually going to be the ones that are going to be willing to push credit on things and actually get the best outcome for the client. Because unfortunately, if you don't have those personal relationships, it's very easy for someone to say, it's kind of outside of our box. No. Doesn't really fit. We're not going to do it. We really want someone who believes and trusts in the product that we bring to them as well. And that's what's been so nice about the last years. We've been able to build a reputation as a new broker entity, but it's built upon years of professional experience and relationships in the Okanagan and in the broader market as well. That's what's so nice about bringing the transition.
So bringing the file to the right desk with as much clarity in all the details, with the intent to get a quick yes or a quick no.
To the right person, and it's spelled it out. So it's not just here's a giant zip file. It's like, we have that supported. Those supporting documents are available for you. We've already done the analysis for you.
So I still think you guys are financially wise, if I may say that.
100%.
So
yes, that is accurate.
Starting your business, did you have to go to get financing to start the business, or were you guys able to invest into the company personally? or both?
Myself and my business partner started our first day together working out of the detached garage at my house.
I love it.
And I've said this to a few people, but very much the kind of Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs approach of kind of working out of the garage.
Exactly what I thought.
But so no, what's very nice about the service that we're in is that it's the low overhead. And even the employees that we have, they've come to the office to kind of work and do some initial training, but it's remote otherwise type of thing. So. And what's also side benefit for me is my commute went from not a long one downtown, but to about 11 or 12 steps out of my back door. So.
But that is what we're seeing when you look at all the new business licenses at the City of Kelowna, and I've been watching. We do have a different type of business being created, and that is the ability to have businesses run remote or from home or not from, and you're seeing it in commercial, lack of commercial real estate deals being done, possibly. Yeah. That'll be another topic. I want to shift for a second. Volunteerism. You've served on the Downtown Kelowna Association. You've been involved as a member or possibly volunteering for OYP. Yeah. You've done for the Chamber. You've been an ambassador. Do you do it out of the goodness of your heart? Do you do it because you get bored and you want to be busy? What's your take on volunteerism and how it has or has not impacted the stuff you did at Pusher and the stuff that you're doing at Lake Point Capital?
Yeah. Oh, well, it's a great question. I think, and I'd highly recommend anyone who's, in any sort of career, but especially professionals, to get engaged with boards, just because of you can bring your expertise to better assist that board as well. And you and I were on the Downtown Kelowna Association together, and that was actually one of the tough parts about when I left Pusher Mitchell. I left the business improvement area of the downtown, and so was no longer eligible to continue my role as president at the time. So it was a very truncated, very short presidency that I had there. But what I'd say is that I think one of the reasons it's so important is because we're boots on the ground here in the community, and this is our home, and that's, if you can involve yourself in any sort of volunteer organization, you're giving back in a way that those organizations would very much struggle if they didn't have that sort of volunteers. So I think for the Downtown Kelowna Association in particular, my time during there was during a period of, I'd come just after the Bernard revitalization and the fun part and challenging parts of that project, and came into an environment where we increasingly had some issues with the unhoused population, and that persists to this day. And I think it takes really as much as it takes a village to raise a kid. I think it also takes a village to try to keep community together, and it's not without its challenges for sure. But that's actually one thing right now that if I'd say was lacking on the professional fulfillment side is I'm not currently volunteering with any role.
I was just going to ask.
I may be slightly busy, starting to try a business and then about to start a family, but that's not necessarily the best excuse. So I think maybe I'll just try to support by advocating everyone should try to volunteer if they have the capacity.
Perfect. I'll let Alexa know you can help out with Kelowna Santas.
There we go.
I think nearing the end of a couple more questions. In an article that was written about you, there was a statement in there that, and I think it was the Accelerate Okanagan article, and it talks about what's important to you. Okay. And a statement from you in there was that you are a keeper of your word. And that was 2021. Mm-hmm. Does that statement still test true today?
I like to think so. Yeah, I like to think so. I'm trying to think if I've broken my word on anything recently. No, I think I would also use that as my kind of touchstone if I were to be asked to write that sort of article again, or be interviewed for that. I think when it comes to, that's the other thing that I've enjoyed about this partnership with Cooper and as our team's growing is aligning with people of a similar value set and culture. And I think, take Pusher Mitchell as an example. I have a ton of fantastic relationships there. It's a fantastic firm.
Agreed.
It's a very large operational body, and from a business structure, that can sometimes be challenging in order to move certain initiatives forward. And so what's been kind of nice as you're in the startup mode is you're a lot more nimble. And so you can quickly shift on things, but you're nimble with someone who you're aligned with from a motivation level perspective, from a value perspective, and so that's been a lot of fun to be a part of as well, because we can very quickly make decisions, yes, about how we want to grow, how we don't want to grow, who we want to work with or don't want to work with, and those are some very significant things. So so that's been a lot of fun too.
So last question for you. Today is International Women's Day. And I believe you will be having a young lady joining your family.
Yes.
Is there anything that you would like to say on behalf of International Women's Day in general, or to your soon-to-be here daughter?
Well, hi to my soon-to-be here daughter. Very excited to meet you. I think, there's so many things you can say, but I guess it's fantastic to have shouldn't be only one day dedicated, of course, but it's fantastic that I have so many women in my life who are very inspirational, and I don't even have to go outside of my own family, but obviously there's a ton without. But I immediately, when you started talking about that, was thinking about my wife and my sister and my mom. Like they've been, because we're dealing with a very exciting time, have become closer than ever, I think, to each other and to myself, and watching people, watching my mom become a grandma to my sister's daughter as well. We're very lucky. We're gonna have 2 girl cousins growing up in Kelowna, which will be great. But now also watching how my mom is able to kind of support us in this stage of our journey, and my sister being an aunt, and it's very exciting, and so there's a lot of great women out in the world, and I'm glad we have a day to celebrate them. And thanks for having me on something like this. I really appreciate the connection that we've had over the years too.
You're very welcome, Brian. Thank you so much for coming into studio and sharing your story. And thank you everyone for listening. Make sure and follow our channel and share this video. There's lots of wisdom that you shared with us, and I hope it serves our audience in helping them on their journey in entrepreneurship.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.